And welcome! Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, check out these courses, and enjoy this clown-versation!
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another cool clown-versation. This week with the amazing NAOMI SILMAN, who I'm going to introduce in just a moment. She's trying on different pairs of glasses right now to figure out which is the best one. So that's very important. And in the meantime, it's lovely to see you all here today. And it would be great if you could start by just saying hello in the chat, post a comment. I'd love to know who's there, you know, be part of the conversation, of the clown-versation. So I can't even see your names unless you put them in the chat. So pop your name in the chat. Let me know where you are today and anything, you know, how are you doing today? Just say hi. That would be cool. And please subscribe to the channel. This is really important because this, you know, I put out lots of free content, and this is something that you can do to help support me. So just hit the subscribe button under the YouTube video there. And also, if you like the conversation, why not like it? Give me a like, give me a share. Why not? Just hit that share button. You can copy that link and you can pop it into your Facebook feed, and maybe some of your friends will be interested and come and join while we're talking. So also, I want to do a very quick announcement because I know I've just got so much happening right now, so much going on. Marco Antonio Moreira, great to see you from Brazil. Excellent, which is where NAOMI is. So I imagine that's the connection. Good to have you, Marco. Yeah, I've just got so much going on at the moment. There is like, things are just going crazy with Clown Spirit, and partly thanks to my amazing colleague, Brian Irving, who I'd just like to give a shout out to Brian, who is my inspiration at the moment. He is helping me enormously with all my sort of marketing and online presence and just looking at the whole, everything that I'm doing and giving me a lot of amazing advice. So thank you, Brian. And one of the things that Brian actually suggested to me was the clown reaction videos. And I'd never even heard of reaction videos. I don't know where I've been all this time. Hey, Catfish. Hey, John. Great to see you. And there is apparently a whole world of reaction videos out there, people reacting to music, to all kinds of things, mainly music, mainly songs, actually. So Brian was like, why not do a clown reaction series? So I started doing that last week. There are 5 up there already on the YouTube site. And the idea is that I'm going to do reaction videos, sometimes to very well-established, well-known clowns, classic acts, but also to new stuff that's coming out, you know, newbie clowns, or just anybody out there at the moment who's producing material and would like some feedback and would like to get their work out there. So all you have to do is send me your video, either as a file or as a link, and I will do, and when I have find time to do it, maybe not right away, but I eventually will get to it. I'll do a reaction video with me basically kind of reacting, you know, just giving constructive criticism or just saying how much I love it, which is what's been happening mostly so far. And I'll put it on YouTube so that, you know, we can all enjoy those things and all sort of share, network, educate each other, ourselves, and all that Hey, everybody. I hope you can hear me again. I had a weird power cut. Are you there? I'm hoping you stuck with me and that you can hear me now. Give me a thumbs up or a comment just to let me know. That would be really cool. I think I'm on. So just let me know. Let me know that I'm not speaking into a void. I was just talking about the clown reaction videos, which are up on the YouTube site now, which you can go and have a look at. And I also want to mention that I'm going to make a big announcement, important, free. You're getting echo, Brian says. Don't know what to do about that. Let me see. There is, well, I've got echo cancellation on, so I'm just going to plow ahead. There's going to be a free offer at the end of this conversation with Naomi. So stick around to the very end, you guys. And I am going to be offering the opportunity to win a free red nose from the Red Nose Factory made by the amazing Chad Stender. So do hang on for that. Now, folks, I am very excited to welcome my guest for this week. Now, Naomi Silman has, she has the kind of a classic clown training, you might say. Goldsmiths, Philippe Gaulier, Jacques Lecoq. And then, get this, she joined one of the most important theatre collectives in Latin America, perhaps in the entire world, Lume Teatro, and things changed pretty big time for Naomi. Lume is huge, amazing, a huge inspiration for me and for many practitioners of theatre in Latin America. And we'll be talking about that in a moment. But Naomi and I also have this other connection because we both are students, long-term students of Sue Morrison, who I've talked about quite a bit. And she is an amazing clown teacher. She teaches clown through mask from the Richard Pachinko technique. And she directs shows. And in fact, she directed both of us independently in our solo shows, myself and Naomi. So we have that in common. And Sue always talked about Naomi and how amazing she was. And I never got the chance to meet her until I successfully invited her and her partner Ricardo to come to the Clown Encuentro, which is a festival I used to run in Colombia. And she came and performed her show, and Ricardo performed his show, and they taught workshops, and it was incredible. And it was kind of, our friendship and connection has gone on since then, and we keep meeting in random places, not so much recently for obvious reasons. But fortunately, she agreed to come and talk to me today. So I'm going to stop blabbing and introduce her and bring her onto the stage. Here she is, Naomi Silman. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for that.
You went with those ones in the end. I'm glad.
Yeah, well, it was between these ones. These ones are I feel very much like an architect.
Yeah, very professional.
Very professional architect vibe. But then they don't go with the earrings.
No.
So. And then we've got these quirky retro
60s
blingy 60s ones, which probably also don't go with the earrings.
Oh no, I think they do.
They do.
I think they go perfectly.
Thank you, fashion expert, but a clown guide and commentator and fashion advisor.
Right. Oh yeah, I'm just going to make a note of that. That's that's plan B if the clown thing doesn't go to plan.
Right. Yeah. Put that on your curriculum, CV. Very important.
Yes. Fashion advisor to the stars. I won't mention that they're clown stars.
No. It's the most embarrassing thing, isn't it? I mean, obviously now I'm used to it, but I remember way back, when meeting, my parents' friends or old relatives, and it was like, oh, so what are you doing? And it was one thing to say that I was in theatre or studying theatre or whatever, but when you had to say, I'm a clown, I mean, that is really creates a tense moment for many people.
I know, right? And is it still true for you, that?
I'm much more laid back about it now. I mean, most people have no idea when you say it, they don't know what that means. But I just think, well, it's, if they don't know, they, maybe one day they'll come and see.
But you use the word. You use the C word, don't you?
I do use the C word, yes.
Because some people are like, oh, I'm a physical comedian, or, they try and explain it some other way.
No, I use the C word, or in Portuguese, the P word. No?
Yes.
Palhaça or palhaço, and also what was I going to say? And also, which is not so common nowadays, I do use the red nose always, which also is kind of sometimes now a bit, there's a kind of connotation sometimes of that being a bit sort of old-fashioned, and brings a lot of, I think, preconceived ideas when people see you with the red nose.
Yes,
which is why I know a lot of people choose to not use the red nose. Yeah. But I am quite I'm quite attached still to the red nose.
Yeah, me too. And speaking of red noses, Chad is on. I can see he's just commented from the Red Nose Factory. So Chad is listening in, and Chad makes amazing red noses, which you can get at therednosefactory.com. And I'm going to be giving away one of those very, very soon. So at the end of this conversation with you, Naomi, I'm going to tell people how they can do that, how they can win the free red nose.
Cool.
So yeah, I mean, red noses are super important to me as well. And I wonder if that's partly because of our connection with Sue, because she treats it as a kind of sacred object.
Correct. Yes. The nose and the something on the head.
Yeah, which I just love that. And nobody else does that really. And when I say it, people are like, huh? I have to wear a hat. But somehow it's in my bones, and because of Sue, because it's so important that for people who don't know what we're talking about, Sue would always say, if you've got a red nose on, you have to wear a hat. And she would give this little example of like, it's like a Brita filter. But because the power of the clown gods is so great and so dangerous potentially, that we need the hat to kind of give us a little protection from their power. And so she kind of feels afraid if she sees somebody wearing a red nose with no hat. Am I just making that up, or is that?
You're not making up, but the concept of the hat is quite wide. It can be, because I remember her saying it can be a clip or a hairstyle or a flower or a
Totally. It's just something up there, isn't it?
It is. And I love that. I mean, this is one aspect that has drawn me always so much to Sue and keeps coming back all the time, not just in my clown practice, but in my general understanding and I think passion for theatre is this idea of ritual. I mean, ritual is so important in our lives, and we are so void of it, I think, as the years have gone by in the Western culture. And of course we can't talk about Sue and the nose and the hat without also mentioning this great concept that she has, which is also for me just the best, which is the cynical benevolence. So cynical benevolence meaning, which to me sums up the whole of clowning, meaning it's something you have to believe in so much, it really is. There's something so sacred and profound, and at the same time you have to think that maybe it's just all a load of whatever, maybe there isn't, this hat just means absolutely nothing, but who knows. So and that's kind of, and that ties into the sacred and profane, those two sides of the coin, which to me is kind of what I've been looking for also all the time as an artist, those two sides.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So when you first, how did you even get in touch with Sue and kind of start that? Because you'd already done some clowning, I assume, with Gaulier and Lecoq before you met Sue.
Oh, yes. I'd been through the grumpy old Frenchman's torture chamber.
Well, let's just talk about that for a second. What was Gaulier like for you? I never did it, but lots of people who've been on here have.
I got all the classic comments. You are more you're watching you is more boring than my boring old aunt. It is worse than my old slipper.
Boring.
You leave immediately.
I love it.
And that was traumatic in the beginning. It was, I was definitely traumatized but I didn't, I still continued, it wasn't like I did one workshop and I thought, oh my God, this is because I'm not defending and I'm not criticizing. It's not really a question of judging him, for what he does. I just could see other things that were so just mind-blowing to me, this thing of play, of pleasure, of having fun, and how difficult that was. And that intrigued me. I said, why is it so difficult, to actually let go and just have fun? And then all this Englishness of mine, all these layers of oppression and, and fear of embarrassment and fear of doing the wrong thing. And it just was like, I felt this so thick on me, all around me. And I just thought, this guy, as painful as it is, as painful as the experience is, I need to chip away at this, And the other people in the group were so fantastic and supporting, and I met such great people,
Beautiful.
there. That kind of, I think, motivated. And I would never have met Sue. It was a whole chain reaction. It was from Gaulier onwards, really, that it all kind of spread out, opened out from there.
John just made a comment. Cynical benevolence. I finally have a term to describe how I feel about pretty much everything. That's great. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's an amazing concept. I use that all the time. It's really wonderful. So okay. So what was that journey then? You've from Gaulier to Sue.
Right. So Gaulier to Sue. Gaulier, and then I left Gaulier and I went to Paris to do Lecoq in the backward order, because a lot of people spent a year at Lecoq and then came to Gaulier after, because Gaulier's classes, his modules, were more or less modeled on Lecoq's second year of teaching. Although Gaulier does do the neutral mask, but all his other, many of his other workshops are more what Lecoq does in year 2. So a lot of people would have that, whereas I did it backwards. And I spent the first year at Gaulier, and I didn't know, I'd hardly heard of Lecoq. It was kind of through Gaulier. Obviously, I met a lot of people who had been to Lecoq or teachers at Gaulier who trained with Lecoq. It was the early 90s, Complicité, Theatre de Complicité was exploding, in England, and much admired. So I went to Lecoq with a friend of mine from Gaulier, Pilar Lopez, Spanish girl, who I started clowning with her. And then day one of Lecoq, I bump into an American guy called John, who had done a theatre project with me at Goldsmiths. I think he was a postgrad and I was an undergraduate, and we were in a play together that was through someone doing directing at Goldsmiths. And he appeared in Lecoq. We bumped into each other and hadn't seen each other for a long time. And he lived in New York. And day one, he said, this is just, I can't do the American accent, so I just can't, I'm not going to risk it. He said, this is just, I hate this place. Who is this guy? Who is this? I think he's the master of the universe, who doesn't know anybody's name, who's not interested in anything about, the person. It's just like, the rules and the van mouvement and And he said, I'm not staying. This was the first day. I was like,
and this was actually Lecoq. Lecoq was teaching himself.
Lecoq was teaching, he was. And we just sat in the bar chez Jeannette after the class, and he was just so disillusioned. And I said, well, we come because we'd been to Gaulier and we wanted to continue with clowning. So obviously we'd come to Lecoq. And he said, clowning, forget Lecoq. He said, forget Lecoq. He said, you need to meet Sue Morrison. And that was it. He planted that seed, and me and Pilar, we wrote it in our notebooks, at the back. Sue Morrison, Canada. That's all we knew. And then we didn't have email at that time. There was not, it was, there
this is the dark ages we're talking about now.
The dark ages, the ages of faxes.
What's that?
Yeah. And then a guy, and then, so how do we connect? We had a friend from Gaulier who was Canadian. So we wrote him a letter and we said, hey, David, do you know Sue Morrison? Could you get her address? And he found her because he lived in Toronto, and he tracked her down and he got her address and he sent it back via post. This is her address. Wow. And then we sat down and wrote a letter. It was basically like, dear Sue Morrison, my name is Naomi and my name is Pilar. We really want to meet you. How can we do that? And
how cool.
Yeah.
Love
letter,
it.
And she wrote back. And
the old days.
Yay.
And so you went and on the basis of that.
She came to then because we were living in France, we did Lecoq. We did Lecoq for a year, and then all the time was in our minds like, we're going to get through this year because we'd been there, we'd saved up, we'd got the money for it. But we thought, yeah, we're gonna hello, this is my daughter coming to talk to me.
Hi, come in. Come in and say hi.
No, she's gone. Oh. And then we organized a kind of a meeting of training methodologies in Southwest France. So there was someone from De Croo and someone from Grotowski type work, and Ricardo, who you mentioned before, came with Lume's training, and we invited Sue, and she came. And sorry, I am here. And she taught 4 weeks of Clown Through Mask in the south of France in 1996 or 7. Yeah.
Right. Wow.
That was the first time. And then after that, she came to Brazil in 99. And then I went to her in 2003 and et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, interesting. So you actually went to Canada after me. I was thinking it was before, but you'd met her long before I met her, because I went and did Clown Through Mask in 2001, I think. Right,
in Canada.
In Canada, yeah. Having had her in England the year before that, teaching just 1 week. So what was your sort of impression of Sue when you first started working with her, and what was it that drew you to her?
I absolutely loved her from the very first moment. I loved her really maternal side and her really caring side, and that was such a contrast from my Frenchman, my authoritarian father figure, Frenchman. And I just remember the first exercise when she makes the invisible line, the one she calls walking the wall, and she draws the invisible line and you have to walk to it with your eyes closed. And I remember when that finished, she just came, not just for me, that's what she does with all the students. She just came, of course, not now with COVID, but, she came up and gave me this really massive hug and went, well done, well done. And I thought, oh my God, that's the first time that, in the first exercise, it didn't really matter also it wasn't about getting it right, and she was just like, well done for trying, for being here. And of course, after that, it wasn't, that was moment one. Of course, from there to directing my show, I got the full benefit of her also extremely critical and honest eye about everything as far as I was as an artist, a theatre maker, a clown, but as a human being as well, but it was this, I don't know, I just really trusted her. I think that's what it came down to. I really trusted this person.
Because she can also reduce people to tears.
Oh yes, I've cried many times. There was a classic one. I'm sorry I keep disappearing. It's just...
That's okay.
I'm trying to close the door.
Do you want to just go do it? I think it's a good clown act that's going on.
Yeah, I'm trying to... And StreamYard is the worst because it's the mirroring. So when you think that you're going one side, you're going the other.
I should actually just make you full screen, and then we'll be able to see the whole act.
It's done. It's over. It's finished. But yeah,
okay.
famous tears for me were this wonderful exercise of Sue Morrison called Fantastic Spaces, where you bring something wonderful to you, really important, really significant. And this was in France when we did it. And I don't know what was going on with me, but I was like, yeah, something fantastic. Ooh, I'll make what? I made a banana and cinnamon sandwich. I'm not even particularly fond of these bananas. I don't know what happened. It's complete. I just.
It was important to you.
It was
at the time.
To me at the time. Yeah. Because you know why? Because I thought, oh, that's different. A banana and cinnamon sandwich. No one's going to do that.
You want it to be different.
Bad idea. Worst idea. No, why? Because it was an idea. That was the whole flaw of my choice, because it all came from an idea. A very silly idea. And it just was like, I came on and she was like, oh, okay. And that's important to you then, is it?
Boom, dead.
Boom, dead. Tears. I was just like, it just wouldn't stop.
Oh,
and then of course, it finally worked, because I was just absolutely desperate. I was holding this ridiculous sandwich. And then she said, are you not going to eat it now? Right. And she made me, she induced me to eat it, absolutely flooding, like sobbing into this sandwich. And that became quite funny, actually. So.
Yeah. It's a beautiful exercise that I still do that all the time with students. Yeah, I don't know if you do. Is it? Yeah. Yeah. It's a great.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Even, because it doesn't really matter what you bring, because it's not really about the object. Right. It's about you.
Absolutely. And that was also, this was early on. I was still trying to understand everything here, Like I must change to my intellectual glasses. I was and trying to analyze, and of course, thought that there was a right, and there must be the right thing to, that's going to work, whereas that won't work. And of course, it's not. Anything can work. And in the end, my ridiculously stupid and very insignificant choice, brought something out, because. And then I began to realize that it was much more about how honest you are, how much you can reveal of this. I love this also Sue image of, turning your skin on the outside, so everything it's inside out, we are inside out all the time, and everything that happens, you have to show that. And since we're taught from day one that everything we have to do is to hide that, which even was a line that went into the show, which I really like, the show with Sue, which was because we have the public, and then we have the secret as well, what's inside our underclothes. And that kind of relationship between the two, and I think the clown is very much about empowering people to realize that the underclothes are more precious, and more valid, really, than this public persona that we build for ourselves.
And with clowning, it's so much. There is, I think, a lot of externality with some certain kinds of clowning, right? It's about sort of, how it looks. And I don't know if you've had this experience as well, Naomi, but when I worked with Sue, and kind of that was my route into clowning, I learned about clowning as an inside out thing, as you're saying, like it starts on the inside, and it's all about connecting with yourself and the impulse, and then learning to kind of find ways to express that. But then later I kind of came across this whole other strand of clowning that was really almost the opposite. It was like, you know, how to craft the funny gag and the routine and the clocking the audience and making the whole stage picture work, like a very external kind of thing. And I think for a long time I was a little bit dismissive of that latter approach. And I think what I've found recently is this kind of synergy between the two, you know, that they're both really helpful tools. And actually, if you can bring them together, that there's great artistry in crafting a fall or a gag or a series of gags that just works to get the laugh in just the right place. And there's a joy and pleasure in that. And then, but also bringing this awareness of, and I think Sue used to say it a bit like this, like, do you know who you are when you're doing these things? Because that's what really will transform the audience. When you know, you're really deeply rooted and connected in yourself and your impulses, and then you can do whatever you want.
Absolutely 100% with you on that. And I also really believe, you know, you have to have both experiences, let's say both tools. Both tools at our disposal, because if you only have the external craft, it can often feel a little bit empty, or even you can admire it, but you don't connect with it on the same level. And I think I found that was something that it took me a bit longer to understand, a bit like you, in that I started via the Sue route of, you know, from the inside out, and thinking that was kind of that was the main, you know, most important aspect. But playing my show, I also realized more and more how really simple gag moments, you know, if they weren't well constructed, they just didn't work. And it didn't matter how much I was, you know, in the moment and present and you know, true to my impulses. So that there are rules. I mean, there are rules to comedy. That's without doubt. And, you know, that's why we can see when it works with other comedy crafts people, you know, who maybe have totally different style to us, but we can recognize why it's working or not working.
Totally. Brian asks, this is an interesting question, actually. Do you film what you're doing with students so they get to reflect later on what they were thinking at the time, or is it better to leave everything in the past? And this kind of reminds me a little bit of, if we can relate it back to Sue, because she always had this thing about mirrors and never wanting to have mirrors in the space, because you don't want to be worried about what you're looking like from the outside. And there's something similar with videoing yourself, right? And yet she does use it as a tool. I imagine she used video a lot with you when you were making the show.
That's right. I mean, I can say about that a couple of things. Firstly, in the way of Sue, in Sue's way, and the same in Lume, total mirrorphobia. It's always like, no mirrors, cover them up. It's really, I think it can be really undermining in your initial moments of discovery, you know, when you're trying to discover, when you say who you are, know who you are in terms of a clown or an artist, or understanding your body, you know, on the deeper level, you know, these energies, archetypes, all this hidden stuff that we have inside, this underclothes, digging into the underclothes. Because we are now so conditioned. I mean, if you think, we're living the absolute now, I think, epitome of it now with social media and selfies and
Zoom, where you also, because you're kind of faced with yourself all the time.
Sure. The whole time I'm kind of slightly adjusting myself, you know. Yeah. No, this whole, in fact, that I was going to also mention that the pandemic has changed a lot, that notion for me. But I think in the live, if we're talking about the live, I think it can be very, tricky, because it makes whoever is having the experience, it gives them that extra layer of judgment or censorship, or which it just takes away from that complete abandonment to an experience.
Yeah.
But I think later on, when you're building something like a show, you know, so why Sue uses the camera in order to video the improvisation, which you then transcribe back, you know, onto, also because I think of the speaking element, you know, because she's looking for the text.
Yeah.
And so it would be impossible to write that down in the moment, you know, so the video is also for that tool. But I find that with making stuff, when I'm actually trying to make a piece, and more now, I mean, as years have gone by, if I don't have an outside eye, it is quite helpful. But I've undergone all that exploration and all that kind of excavation before without looking, you know, without the notion, that external notion of myself, which I think has been so important. In fact, in LUME, we do so many exercises. Sue also has a couple, but in LUME, a lot of the training, and especially in the first years with the founder, with Brunier, it was all about doing everything with your eyes closed. You know, it was hours and hours of training with the eyes closed.
So I want to ask you about that, actually. So what was the attraction for LUME in bringing Sue in, and how did that kind of synergy happen? What led them to bring Sue in, and how is it sort of what is that bigger exploration that LUME was in at that time, if that makes sense?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Again, super interesting, LUME's history.
I mean, for people who don't know about anything about LUME, perhaps we should just give them a little bit of that context.
So there was a Brazilian actor, young actor, very young, 16 actually, he was, called Luiz Otávio Brunier. He was fascinated with mime, and he studied at home, watching some old videos of Marcel Marceau. He studied pantomime, and he won a prize in a local competition with his mime act. He won a grant to go to Paris to study mime. And so he went, he was 17, I think, and he went, studied with first Marceau, and then he was sort of trying to find his way, and he eventually found Etienne Decroux and spent many years with Decroux and also became his assistant. While he was working with Decroux, he also did classes with Lecoq and Gaulier, and workshops with Grotowski, and a whole kind of, you know, that whole sort of menu of interesting training methodologies and exploration that was happening at the time. Came back to Brazil in 1985 and started in Campinas, which is where I live. In the University of Campinas, he got a small bit of funding to do a sort of research study of actor training. It was a laboratory, a very, very kind of small, for a short period. Anyway, that sort of grew and grew and grew, and from there became LUME, which until today is LUME is a research nucleus attached to the University of Campinas, other than being a kind of theatre ensemble, theatre company that tours and performs. And then when Brunier started, he was interested more using the exhaustion techniques of Grotowski, thinking very much about the holy actor, connected with finding your own personal way of movement, also connected with Butoh. So he was more interested in that, and he was working for a couple of years with one of the actors who's still in LUME, Simeone, Carlos Simeone, who was the first actor to work with Brunier. And then he invited also Ricardo Puccetti to join. And Ricardo was a student at the time, and he was very, very happy to join Simi and Luis. But he gave Luis a kind of provocation, because he said, my big dream is my whole life, I just wanted to be a clown, since I was sort of, 10. And so please, you've been to France, he knew that he'd had contact with a lot of teachers of clowning in Europe. He said, please, can't we also study clown, which was not
Ricardo
at all.
said, was that Ricardo said?
Yeah,
right.
To Brunier, and it was not at all in Brunier's plans. He'd come from this more kind of like physical theatre back training.
Grotowski, etc.
Yeah. But he took that on board. He was very, very good, Brunier, at feeling, what other people were bringing to him, as an inspiration. And then they started in parallel to continue to work with what became this method known as personal dance and clowning. Obviously, Brunier used his experience with Gaulier, but he developed his own sort of way of teaching clowning, which was these retreats that they did quite a few of back in the late 80s and early 90s, which was a sort of whole week that people would stay on a farm together. And, for those 7 days or whatever, they were in the red nose the entire time, eating with the red nose, sleeping with the red nose.
Oh my God.
There was a swimming pool, swimming in the red nose. And
that's a little bit intense.
It was, very intense. And then they did the exercises as well. And they kind of came out. It was a real sort of like clown baptism in a way, where you kind of went through the whole. So that was, I think, inherent to Lume's work. And Brunier, unfortunately, he died very suddenly in 1995 from an unexpected infection. And left Lume as kind of orphans. But there were 2 actors at the time and another 5 students, sort of apprentices, and they continued. And so the clowning was always Ricardo's, huge.
So it was really in there right from the beginning, very early on, before Sue came in.
Absolutely. And
then was it you that brought Sue?
And then, it was, because then I met Ricardo at Gaulier. So that was the other massive connection. So I met Ricardo at Gaulier. And interesting, I must just say this, very interesting, because Gaulier, as we mentioned, was so difficult to please, so critical. And I never, ever heard him say to anybody else what he said one day to Ricardo when Ricardo was doing exercise in the clown. He said, "Oh, it's interesting because you are very, very stupid. You are so stupid. You are a very good clown, but you are a very good actor. How is it possible?"
Wow.
So, and that really intrigued me, because I could tell that. I could see that. And then, of course, when I knew more about Lume and their training, and that they had this weird, hybrid mix of, this really intense, grueling physical work,
because this is sort of what Lume, one of the things that they're sort of known for, I think, is this incredibly intense, exhausting training regime, like physical training.
Yeah, well, that was the kind of beginning of it all. I mean, obviously, it's changed a lot over time. So now if someone comes to, if energetic training used to be 5, 6, 7 hours straight, with no break, in Brunier, when Brunier was investigating this particular way of working. Obviously now, if we teach a workshop, we will try to evoke that kind of experience in a much shorter time, because even if you work exhaustively without stopping for half an hour or 20 minutes or, you already activate something quite different in your body. So, that's transformed a lot. But it's the clowning, it was just then became that really interesting mix, because although there was something so holy and dedicated about, this whole regime, as you say, but then the clown just completely pushed the carpet from under people's feet, because it was about being irreverent and playful, and and not taking things seriously, and which I guess maybe fed in also to you mentioned seeing our show Shizen Seven Bowls in Edinburgh, which kind of married those two qualities. I think that LUME has strived for over the years, to really mix these territories.
I mean, I think that's what's so amazing about LUME in a way, and it's so rare. I mean, not only they've been going almost 30 years now, right, as a company.
More 30
more
37.
Oh my goodness, that's 37. Incredible. I mean, that's
37.
A company that is very, is among is a very small group of theatre companies that have been going that long, but also they're just a dedication to this constant experimentation, constantly, it seems to me, going back to the drawing board and learning and bringing new things together. Like there's never any, at least this is the impression I get from the outside, there's never any kind of complacency or like we've got a product now or we've got something that we know we can sell. It's like, no, we're constantly curious, experimenting. And this Butoh clown thing was sort of my introduction to that in Shizen. And it was just electrifying, that show. It was like, whoa, you can do that. It started off as this very sort of slow, intense piece of physical theater that felt like Grotowski-ish kind of thing, or like dance theater. And then suddenly there was clowning happening, and out of nowhere, these guys running around with the metal tins on their heads and doing the kind of classic military parody sort of clowning thing, but in this very almost naked with these tin
and totally naked at the end. They take everything off. Yeah,
that's right.
Show it all.
With these tin metal bowls on top of their heads, like kind of helmets, and hitting each other with some kind of sticks, and it made this great noise. It was just total theater. It was beautiful. Very, very.
I think it's important to mention, since you brought it up, of course, we had this great meeting. I mean, Sue, for me, definitely one of the greatest meetings for me as an artist, but also Tadashi Endo, who directed Shizen, who's a Butoh master and director and also fantastic artist. It was, I think, that was this crazy, isn't it, history, because since Brunier died and LUME didn't have a director anymore, and I think that has informed a lot of what's happened to us. When you say this constant, looking for something, experimenting, because no one has imposed any form on us anymore. If it had been Brunier the whole time, I don't know if he might have chosen a particular aesthetic path or his vision, we don't know. Whereas since we didn't have that leadership anymore, I think we kind of went sort of a little bit with the flow, and then someone crossed our path, like Sue or Tadashi or other directors and artists we've met. And it was just like, oh yeah, this is a really interesting connection. Let's, we can drink from this well and learn from this, this person and this well of knowledge and practice so much, and then go and drink from another well. And but I just to say, I mean, because I think that I love that about LUME, and it's definitely why I'm still with LUME. But I think it's a general, I think, a quality for an artist is really important. I mean, I was just thinking of listening to you in the beginning, and when you were talking about your clown, the video commentary, it's not called that. What is it?
Reaction videos.
Reaction video. I was like, that's great. That's just genius to do that, and just
Brian's idea. Kudos to Brian.
Right. Oh, great idea, Brian. And you just think like, oh, that it's so great when you hear about something inspiring and new and different, but it's always connected to something, that is sort of fundamental in a way to our work. So I guess, yeah,
it's just trying to find our way, isn't it? We're sort of each day, and now we're in this weird space where we're trying to find our way as a world. And there's a huge amount that we're skipping over here, and so much more to talk about. But I really want to get on to the topic of that I know is very close to your heart at the moment, which is this sacred clowning that you've become much more involved with in the last few years in Brazil, and which of course has a link back to Sue as well.
That's
and
right. Yeah.
We've only got a few minutes left, so I really want to get onto that topic. So tell me about it. Like, what have you been doing?
Well, again, super connected to Sue, because Sue has this this whole background in sacred clowning and the mixture, the Pachinko method, which mixes European clowning as he learnt it from Lecoq with Native American clowning, the different traditions of Native American clowning. Just trying to think how the first connections started, but there's been a group, an indigenous group. They're from a tribe, a people in the north of Brazil called Cariri Xocó, Karirixoco, and they live in the northeast of Brazil, and they were coming over once a year to Campinas because they had a connection with the university via someone who worked in the anthropology department, I think. And they came to do a lot of educational work here in Campinas with schools and in cultural centers. And they brought they had a sort of cultural group in which they dance and sing using their own rituals, but it's based around dancing and song. And I can't remember the whole history, but it came about that somebody had the idea to do a big cabaret in a culture center very near here where we live, that would involve the indigenous group, since they were here, and the clowns of Barão Geraldo, which is where we live, where there are a lot of clowns, many. I mean, it's literally, you shake a tree and three or four clowns.
This is the city of clowns. If anybody wants to go to the true town, Clown Town,
exactly. Sub-district of Campinas, Barão Geraldo. And so clowns, musicians, and the indigenous musicians and singers. And we came up with this kind of cabaret format, which was great, but it was all divided. So, they did their part, and then the clown, there was a clown number and a music number, and then there was something else and something else. Classic cabaret form. But we started off together. We said, we've got to do everyone together. So the Cariri Xocó, they taught us one of their dances. Well, they didn't. They just said, right, well, everyone, okay, on, just follow us. So this classic clown situation where, you're in your red nose and you've got to follow this indigenous dance and rhythm and song, and you have no idea, how to do it. So we all went on together, and it was just fantastic, just amazing. The whole energy of their work, of their of their presence and their song, their voice, and the music. And it just kind of went from there, that a group of us started. Every year they would come, and we would try and do something with them, and slowly, little by little, this idea that it was much more interesting if we managed to do something together rather than in this cabaret form. So eventually it just became this big sort of ritual where the indigenous people and the clowns, and there were some musicians also that stayed with us, we'd all come on together and we'd do some comic things. But it was, so there was different ceremonies that they have, like the marriage ceremony, but they explained to us a little bit how it worked. And in the marriage ceremony, the bride and groom, they run away. It's crazy. This is so interesting. So the night of the marriage, the bride and the groom, they run away into the forest. And the whole community goes to look for them. And if they can be found, then they can't get married. And if they're not found until the morning, then they can get married. That is the test. So, they shared this tradition, which was just like, this is, it's incredible. And there are all songs and dances that go around with this. And we kind of mix that with, then this became this sort of moment where all the clowns were dressed as brides. There were all these brides running away to hide, and within the audience,
and they have to find the right one, the real one,
and they have to find the real one. And there was the actual couple. And anyway, but what was so great, and then after a couple of years that we'd done, this was a once a year meeting, I said to one of the women, Priscilla, who was very much close to them, I said, look, the day that you decide, I know she'd been a couple of times, like when you next go to the tribe, I really want to go with you if it works out. And then I can't remember when it was, I think 2017 or 16. She said, yeah, I'm going. And I said, okay, I'm coming. And then the time spent with them was just, it wasn't very long. It was a few, 5 days. There's a huge political side to it as well. I mean, the indigenous people here, their land's taken away, even the land that was given to them when the demarcation was done in the 80s. So the land they're entitled to, they don't actually have it. They live in horrendous conditions. Their land is occupied. So there's a whole sort of reason also for supporting them by being present, by bringing also their struggle to people who have no idea about what's going on. So there is that element to it as well. But as an experience, just as a human being, and we did many rituals with them there when we stayed with them. There's the bonfire, there's the sing, there's a dance. And one night they were dancing around the fire, and this went on for hours. This was 3-4 hours, and there came a point when it just clicked to me. I was like, this is energetic training. This is what it used to be like in Lume, in the beginning.
You've come full circle, except, from such a totally different place, but the same. And then when they were fascinated, and talking about from their side, they were fascinated by clowning, because they don't have clowning, they don't have that thing of them, obviously. But although they use a lot of painting of the face and different, depending on the moment, different ways they characterize their bodies. But they talked about this. Listen to this, Barnaby, listen to this. They talked about the spirit of laughter and the spirit of clown, and that they evoke the spirit of clown. They don't have the physical clown. They don't have the carnal representative, but they through certain dances and certain practices, they evoke the spirit of clowning for all of them. And then they go to this really playful way of being. So that is so beautiful. So it's like, I love that idea that we don't need to embody, we don't have to have a person who is the embodiment of the clown always. We can all sort of imbibe that and just live it when we want to.
As long as you understand that how for them, they connect to the spirit through the dance and the song and the rhythm. They have a way in. It's all part, because it's all part of their the cosmovision of the way their society is structured. So,
but that's what we, I want to bring that back into our culture, right?
Absolutely.
We need that.
And it's so much to me. And then it connects also with Lume, because Lume is so much about connecting with the body, you know, because the point is that, you know, we're here, and even, you know, no more now we're on our Zooms, you know, it's for here, it's this, you know, this part, which is all the energy here, which is anyway so Western, and even, you know, a Northern European even more. And this thing is that if you're not in the body, if you're not connected with the body, it's very hard to really understand this otherness, you know, this other experience.
Yeah.
So a lot of things,
amazing. It's all just like all this. I love this conversation. Like, you know, Sue's sacred clowning, and the Lecoq and the Gaulier piece, and then Lume, and then Tadashi Endo, and then this sacred clowning, and the potential to bring the clown spirit into all of us, you know.
Yeah, and that's, I think, what is now this moment for me with this, you know, these other clowns, and and we've expanded, because now Priscilla, who has contact with other tribes, she's brought, you know, 2-3 tribes together with the clowns, you know, to do stuff. So it's also different people with different language, different tradition, but of indigenous background, and sharing, you know, different practices, different traditions, and exactly that, so that eventually everybody can be part of this, you know, without distinction. And we need this. I mean, the planet needs this.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. The planet needs this. Yeah. And you were just telling me before we came on that you had a bunch of stuff about to start at Lume, and then it had to be cancelled yesterday.
Our workshops, February is our traditional workshop session, which has been happening for 20 years now, every single year, sacredly. And last year was the first year we couldn't do the live workshops. We did online workshops. That was a huge transformation, adaptation, you know, which we've all been doing through. We've all been doing it. And again, you know, that's like, we learn. I mean, I learned so much teaching online, you know, a whole new sort of realm that opened up to me. And then this year, obviously, vaccination percentage here is really high. The numbers were going down finally after absolutely horrendous year and a half here. I mean, just sickening, the number of people that got ill and died. And so we thought, now we can come back. And then it was beginning of January. The numbers have started to rocket again with the new with Omicron. Oh, I call it Omicron. It's like, oh my God, Omicron.
Oh my God.
Be gone.
Yeah, maybe. Well, let's hope. Well,
so we've cancelled the live workshops, which is a bit of a downer.
Yeah.
We are giving. Having said that, I don't know if this is a good time, but we are giving 3 online workshops. One of them I'm teaching, and
great.
And if anybody wants to register, that is still possible.
Yes. Can you give us a website or register?
Yes. What do I do? How do I do that?
Just tell it to me and I'll type it in.
Okay. www.anone, ANONE.
So was it AN or M?
AN, yes.
AN.
Oh, this is me being silly and not remembering. Okay, hold on. I've got it. It's ANONEPRODUCOES.com.
Oh, okay.
So it's Anone Producoins. Really difficult.
I just posted that. I hope I got it right.
Okay.
Somebody will post the correct one if it's wrong anyway, because somebody will go and test it.
Yes.
Naomi, it's been really, really amazing talking to you. Your work is just so, like, it just brings so many threads together, and it's so vital and important. And I just thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just so happy to chat with you, and I have to say you are the best interviewer. Should we call you interviewer?
If you like.
Chatting partner. I call you chatting partner.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much.
Because it's just so, you know, I could feel we could just be here for hours. And you know, this I love this feeling of connecting with people on so many different levels, and this sort of like free association, you know, that brings you to one place and another and another, and making those connections.
I think we could, you know, my plan is to do some later in the year where we bring several people together, like 3 or 4 people together, and have conversations like that. Yeah, and I have some great ones coming up as well, so stay tuned, everybody, of the next few weeks. I'm talking to Bob Berkey next week, and then a week after that, Gardi Hutter from Switzerland, who is a stunning clown.
Oh, wonderful,
and
wonderful.
The week after that, I'm super excited because one of my favorite English clowns, Tweedy, who's, do you know Tweedy, Naomi? He's such a good clown. He's the clown from Gifford Circus. He's lovely guy and really wonderful clown. So we've got some good ones coming up. But thank you so much again for today. It's really a pleasure to have you on. Thanks for doing it.
Thank you, my dear. Really, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
And I'm going to say goodbye to you now and then finish up with telling people about this free deal I've got coming up. So yes, the free red nose. Nice. Okay, so bye-bye, Naomi. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
I'm all my own. Okay, thanks for sticking with me to the end, guys, to the bitter end. It's wonderful to have you. And I just want to tell you about this competition. So this is how it's going to work. I've been doing these clown reaction videos, and I would like feedback because it's a new thing. So what I want you to do is to go onto my YouTube channel and watch 3 of those clown reaction videos. And I'd like you to tell me something about them underneath. So put a comment underneath. How did you find it? Was it interesting? Suggestions for doing it differently, suggestions for other videos that I could, whatever, just your reaction, comments on that so that I can learn and get better at doing it. And, you know, if you liked it, give it a like, give it a share, subscribe to my channel. And if you do 3 separate videos, I will enter you for the draw for the free red nose. Okay. So depending how many people do it, you might have a pretty good chance of getting that red nose. And at the end of the week, I think next week in the Clown-versation, I will do the draw with the guest. Maybe next week we'll have a hat and we'll pull the names out of a hat, and somebody will win that free red nose from the Red Nose Factory, and that will be sent out to you free of charge. So yeah, get on to that YouTube channel and have a look at the clown reaction videos and comment and tell me what you think about them. You know, I'm trying here to sort of just do new things. So if you've got any ideas about anything at all, just shoot them my way. Check out the courses that I have. You know, there's all kinds of courses and offerings, free stuff, paid stuff, everything. Trying to build this clown universe and bring people together to share this wonderful, sacred, irreverent thing that we call clowning. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. Thanks to Naomi, and look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye. If I can find the button.